we shall read this document signed by Mr. Hancock just 2 days ago.
This document, this is a what was referred to as a broadside. This is what would have been printed up and sent out by mail carriage, packet boat, horseback, foot, whatever, coming around to be read. The full document with all of the signatures on is yet to be completed.
Right. There we go. There's a little story behind that. It was also printed in newspapers. This is a copy of the Virginia Gazette from July 26, 1776, of which the entirety of the Declaration of Independence is written there. That also happened with the Pennsylvania Gazette. And as a matter of fact, John Harris reads the Pennsylvania Gazette sitting here on his own front porch and makes a decision that it should be read to the populace living here in Harris's Ferry. And so, on this day, July the 4th, we shall read in Congress, July 4th, 1776, a declaration by the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them seems most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Prudence indeed will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws, and most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right given to them and formidable to tyrants only.
Down with the tyrant! Down with the king!
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with many firmaments and invitations on the people and their rights.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions from within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others, to encourage the migrations hither, and ratifying the conditions of new appropriations of land.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by establishing judiciary powers.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone, and for the tenature of their officers, and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass the people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace armies without the consent of our legislators.
He has affected to render the military independent of and to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to the justification foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to the acts of pretended legislation,
for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us,
for protecting them from mock trials, from punishment of any murders which they should commit to the inhabitants of these states,
for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world,
for imposing taxes on us without our consent,
for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury,
for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses,
for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, meaning Canada, establishing therein arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies,
for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments,
for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun in the circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous age, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
He has excited domestic insurrection among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontier the merciless Indian savages, whose own rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable justification over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice. We must therefore acquaintance the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states.
That they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we
mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Signed by order and in behalf of the Congress, John Hancock, President. Attendant, Charles Thompson, Secretary.
God save Congress!
Here.